All right, hey gang, we're gonna do some artwork this morning. So give me a second here to check my signal. I'll post that we're live, and I'll get some work done. So mic check, 1, 2, 3, and that sounds pretty good. All right, I'm gonna drop that volume down there so it stays out of the way. Let me grab our link here so I can post it on to the onlines, and we'll get started here in just a moment. So. For those that are new to the stream, welcome to the mix, guys. My name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. And we're creating an adventure for the Eberron campaign setting using Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition that we're publishing on the DMsGuild. We're going through the process. This is honestly the 3rd year since ideation of this. It's taken quite some time. I took a 1-year hiatus to create a Spelljammer supplement that has a 25-page conversion guide to use the Spelljammer mechanics that we have in the Light of Xerax's adventure. And the reason I mentioned that, well, A, it's cool, but most importantly, because I never created an adventure before. I've been creating content on DMsGuild for DMs and player options since 2017. I've been a DM since 1987, and I've been a freelance illustrator since 1999. But I've never actually created an adventure, and I've been a huge Eberron enthusiast since 2005. So it's my homebrew world of choice, but never created an actual published campaign before. I've done a lot of work with Inkwell Ideas in the past, creating scenarios and random like wandering monsters and stuff like that. But this is my own with Andy, the old goat Headley, and Stuart Braz is our editor. Here on the X Twitter platform, I'm at Phil Kearney. If you're interested, if you're on the X Twitter platform as well, I post early looks, coupons, artwork, and links to different stuff that we're doing. And then here on the YouTube, I'm gonna like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications when we are live in the future. Here's the entire playlist of all 358 episodes, and here's a slew of books on the DMsGuild I've already created. Check that stuff out, and if you like what you see, stick around. I'd love to have you. Hey, what's up, Rob? So we're gonna do some campsite artwork today. And I was just watching one of your last years. Hey, right on. Proud to have you. Thank you. Ah. All right, so let's mess around. I'm not done. I'm not content with these icons yet, but I like where they're going. So difficult terrain of boots and exhaustion, heavy fog, light fog, piercing damage, poison condition, sickened, bright light, dim light, darkness. I wish there was more to say about bright light. I just don't know. I just don't know what else to add. So I didn't want to just add it to add. So maybe I'll come up with some filler space. I could have done like darkness, dim light, and then brightness, but that'd be reversed alphabetical, and everything else is pretty much alphabetical. So that felt weird. Anyway, we're dealing with the right column today. Let's see what we can come up with. I'll drop that down there. Tents. Trying to do ourselves some traditional campsite looking type stuff. The manifest zone is 20 miles in to the Carnwood from the village. So on a horse, you can get there in half a day if you push the horse. But on foot, it's going to take you almost all day to get there. So the likelihood of you ending up taking a long rest in the Carnwood, pretty high. I just want to get that foreshortening good. That actually looks pretty good. And I think I need to up the size just a smidge. that in place, and then I want to push this back here. Let's do a perspective tool, and then let's go skew, and then distort. I'm gonna do like that. Ooh, that's looking right. But this one isn't quite in the right plane. Free transform, and I think distort's doing the job. Oh yeah. Like, you don't want to be too far away from camp, because, like, why the fuck are you so far away from camp, you know? But you don't want overwhelming... You don't want overwhelming the image, so... Still don't feel quite right. I think this one needs to be larger. This has, like, a weirdness to it. Free transform. Let's just warp at it a little bit. The angle just feels weird. That needs to be a little bit larger now. For transform, maybe we can broaden a bit and then up it in size a smudge. Hey, Karen. Hope the healing's coming along, sister. That feels pretty good. We'll drop that to there, and then to there, and then this is my plane here, so to move forward here like that. I'm looking at how the foreshortening feels here, and I need to push that up a bit and pull this out some. That's starting to feel flat land, but that's also above the horizon of where these guys' feet are at. You can time the timer. So that means I probably need to drop those there so that this lines up a little bit easier, like that. Yeah, see, this is at a different, this is what's pissing me off. This is at a different pitch than this is. This feels like the better pitch, though. Let's get that out of view. Do like that. Or I can just be cheeky and free transform. Down. I see that there's text happening. I will catch up with y'all in a second. Son. Yeah. Good. You tell him, Rel. You teach that foot who's boss. Okay, that feels better now. Yeah, I can safely have the fire here. This is good placement now. See, this is falling in line. That's roughly how this world works, like this. So that flattens out eventually. My horizon line is going to be around here, which is perfect because that's lining up with this guy's point of view right here. This guy will be above, that will be below. Yeah, that feels good. Okay, I'm going to regret having done that over the same art. Cool. Let's separate this into a separate bit before I regret further. I've been doing so much layout, like a lot of this is more graphic design work than actual illustration. You know, it's the I talk about there's a lot. There's like that flow state that I can fall into when I'm like actually illustrating, is because I don't have to think about what I'm doing, and so I can just let the movement move and just be a part of the dance. And I don't get that with graphic design because I'm always like plotting and scheming about like what's the proper positioning for this, or like, is this off? You know, do I need to adjust this angle? Could I move the text around a little bit more to make this a little bit more efficient? I'm always thinking when I'm doing layouts, and it's not as fun. The most fun a Kearney can have when he's creating is doing actual artwork, because like I said, I don't have to think when I'm doing artwork. I put in my 15,000 hours. I have the right to not have to think about the work that I'm doing anymore while I'm doing it. That's the goal that all of us artists are looking to achieve, is just to stop worrying and thinking about it. Just shut up and get the work done. And damn it, I feel like I'm entitled. I've put in my work. I've got my dues. So I want to enjoy. So we're taking a break from doing page layouts for the moment, and we're just doing some simple terrain. Nice little. I haven't done a campfire scene in I don't even know how long. I'm having a hard time remembering the last time I actually had a full campfire scene. I don't know if I've done any professionally or not. Just little character illustration stuff on this side. Get some terrain in there. I just love doing nature stuff. It's so much fun. I feel like I want to curve this up like that a bit. Like that these need to be. Like, maybe I want to push this one down in size just a bit. No, I need to push it back. This one needs to come forward a little bit. First off, I want to change the angle a snitch, and then up the size and slide it over a bit. That feels pretty good. And pull this in. That feels okay. I'm trying to balance the piece. We're gonna have 3 characters here, another one standing here. There's gonna be 4 stuff in the background. So there's stuff that's going on. I just need to make sure that the composition balances well so it feels right when it's all pulled together. I think I need to put this here. Bring that down in size just a bit more. Push it back. There we go. That feels better. This probably won't matter in a bit. I need decent positioning. And here. Okay, that feels good so far. And then we can... What's up? Good. Well, yeah. Because it's going to lay you up for fucking months. Why would you do it sooner than you needed to? It's amazing what people are willing to endure for the sake of convenience. Ain't that just the meme of the day, huh? I mean, we're all weighing that transactional decision. Like, is this worth the pain of fighting it, or is it worth the minor pain of just tolerating it, knowing that you're going to be able to get through your day? And that's how stress builds. Woof. That must have been the change, right? It grew enough that it started digging into the muscle. Yeah, bone spurs just kind of happen. There. And so let's take this and have that align with the fire instead of trying to make the fire align with it. So now we're too left heavy. So I actually do need to have this pulled over a bit like that. This is helping establish the perspective, which is why I'm spending so much time on it. And that feels pretty good. So I think I can let that sit there. Let's drop this back a bit like that so it doesn't get in the way too much. We're at right now. This gal's got a... There. We can take this. The next thing for me to do is the fire itself. So let's get some logs in here. There we go. Pick that off there. Separate that forward here. And bring this up. So it looks good. It does look good. Merge the wood stump into the stone. Smooth off that edge, rough that up a bit. There we go. And too chaotic there, buddy. scouts there. That feels pretty good. Get that angle right. Fire climbs up, not to the side. Be-dee-da-doo. There, decent little campfire. Okay, great question. Old D&D heavy on storytelling and role playing, or just one or the other? No, the oldest school of D&D had. It wasn't. It was. I can only know from my experience and stories that I've told, right? And I started playing in '87. That was during first edition AD&D, but I had gotten a box, the red box set, basic, the Moldave player's hand. I got 3 players handbooks for my birthday. I got the AD&D first edition player's handbook, the red box set, basic set, and the Moldave original Dungeons and Dragons. So I had 2 versions of the basic edition that are slightly different, and then the player's handbook, as well as the Unearthed Arcana from first edition, and then a ton of lead miniatures and then some old basic and expert level adventures. So from old school original Beckme basic and expert editions. Back in those days, characters were more like user interfaces in a virtual world, like an avatar character, an avatar for yourself in the game world. It wasn't like I'm a dwarf and here's my clan and here's my background and my favorite color is blue and I like having a counterclockwise knot in my beard. None of that shit. It's like, I'm a dwarf, I've got an axe, I can detect angles, and I can see in the dark. Let's kill some orcs. And you would go from room to room in a dungeon, killing monsters and looting treasure from them. But a lot of the first edition of the game was like there were no skills, right? There was a combat, there was monster stats, there was character stats, there was spells and weapon damage. And you didn't get any experience points for killing monsters. There was no story in these adventures until basically Ravenloft came out in second edition. And so you'd run around dungeons, and you would use it was the player's thinking and the player's mindset that would find the treasure and make the decisions about overcoming monsters. And so the way that the character basically the characters just basically represented you in the dungeon. Like if you were to do what do they call them now, escape rooms, right? Like the escape room entertainment industry where they create a little puzzle room that you have to get out of. Imagine if that was just a narrative experience instead of you actually going to the escape room, and the people that run the escape room explain the room to you, introduce what the puzzle is, and as you explore the room, the only way you can actually explore is by asking them questions like, how big is the room? What color is it? How many exits are there? How tall is the ceiling? Are there any vents anywhere? Like you would ask these questions to get more and more clarification of the environment that you're inside of. And once you feel like you have sufficient information about where you're at and what's going on, you try to solve it. Like, can I pick the lock? It's like, well, make a lock picking check. It's like, well, I failed the lock picking check. Okay, well, apparently you're stuck in here. You can't get the lock to work, so what do you want to do instead? It's like, let's look for secret doors. And like, well, you find a panel in the wall, but it's stuck. It's like, well, I want to try to force it open. Well, how would you like to force it open? Well, I see there's a metal ruler over there. I think I want to use that as a crowbar. Okay, great. Well, that'll work. And it just continues along in that process until you're able to. It's kind of like the old Infocom adventures on very old computers, where it was an adventure like that. It was all text driven, and if you didn't use the right keywords in your text prompts, it'd be like, I don't understand what you mean. But if you like push chairs, like it just assumes like, okay, you push the chair to the northern side of the room, and you can now step up onto the chair to reach the vents in the top corner of the ceiling, and you see that the panel to the vent is loose, and that'd be where they would leave the prompt. Like if you made a decision like I pushed the chair, it would assume that you would push the chair to a place where it becomes relevant to the story, because push chair was a code that they had built into the machine. If push chair, then blank, and whatever basic program they were using and decode these games. But D&D was very much the same way. Like it wasn't, well, let's see if the skill challenge works, and if it fails, then you have to come up with another solution. It wasn't necessarily like that. It was like, if you can figure out that you need to push the chair to the corner of the room to be able to reach the vent, then you're just going to do it. But like you can't do like an insight check to figure out what's there. If you're stuck in that room, you're fucking stuck in that room. Which is where a lot of the complaints about puzzles originated from. Like there's literally no way out of this room if we can't figure out the puzzle. And the DM has a shitty puzzle. So what the fuck are we supposed to do? Well, we're going to get really frustrated and figure it out. And then you start, creating compromises and stuff, and start reconsidering how complicated of a puzzle do you really want to have in your game. I've never ran into a puzzle that wasn't just a complete fucking brain stump that needed a lot of guidance and hand-holding from the DM. Whether I'm the DM or I'm playing, I have never seen a puzzle go smoothly. I am not a fan of puzzles. I will change my mind there. Let me say I am not a fan of puzzles that prevent you from getting access to something. I'm okay with a puzzle being interesting, and if you fuck around with it, you can discover things about the environment that you're in. But I do not like puzzles being gates that you have to get through to get to the next part of the adventure. Because again, I've never seen a puzzle play properly. But they were rampant throughout D&D, because D&D was very much. It only took like a minute to make a new character, so they were cheap, and you'd get killed a lot, which is where the idea save or die came from. Which was literally like, if you get poisoned, you're dead. Or if you get turned to stone, you may as well be dead, because the cost and time needed to find someone that could de-petrify you is goddamn ridiculous. You may as well just roll up a new character. So that's what happened a lot. And so you cycle through a bunch of characters, figuring out this escape room. So there wasn't this idea of attaching yourself to a character. It's like this, this is my 4th, 5th level fighter this month, trying to get through this fucking dungeon, and the memories that I have aren't about my character. They're about the bullshit that I had to go through with that character. And I don't remember specifically which character that was, but I'll remember the gear that they had, because the difference between a 4th level and a 5th level fighter is like a +1 to hit and like 6 extra hit points if you're lucky. Otherwise, there's no change at all. So what makes your characters unique is the adventures that they go on that aren't the characters' adventures. Those are your adventures. So the memories that you have in the old editions is what crazy crap did we overcome, and what cool magic gear did I get? Because if my character dies, a new character can show up, just pick up all the loot off of his body, and just keep going. You may as well just re-roll your stat line and keep your character sheet, which some people would do, because that's how unimportant the characters were compared to the process of exploring and overcoming a dungeon, because it was all 100% on the player. If you get into a fight, then you start rolling random dice, but that's a penalty. Like whenever you have to roll dice in original Dungeons and Dragons, it's because you did something wrong, or you didn't think of something, or something catches you by surprise. But anytime you have to roll dice, there's a chance your character is going to die. So the more you could avoid die rolls in original D&D, the better off your character's health actually was. The better you're doing with the dungeon. Big change. When Wizards came in and bought D&D, they moved away from that delving idea completely and moved into character identity and deck building by having complicated character options and multi-classing and prestige classes and feats. It opened up this, I'm going to custom design a character to do the kind of actions and action loops and resource management like I want, because they're a deck building game. That's a very Wizards of the Coast. That's a very Magic the Gathering philosophy about character creation, and that's what they leaned into. That was the first version of D&D. Let's make a deck builder out of it. And so making a character became a legitimate, like there was no real mini game around like, oh boy, I'm going to build a rogue, you know, like, okay, great, here comes my 5th level thief. You have a predefined percentage chance of climbing a wall. There is no optimization. There's literally no optimization with a thief character in Beck Me first and second edition. You started getting character options with kits, which were basically backgrounds. The background system in 5e. That's basically what a kit was. Like 2014 backgrounds, where it'd give you a skill and a feat and a perk of some sort, and that was it. That basically came from second edition. And kits are fucking cool because it was an option. Like, oh, I can be a gladiator now and like gain this bonus, or I could be a swashbuckler and gain this bonus, or, you know, whatever. So that was kind of like the beginning of deck building. But it was super, super primitive. I want to tilt this a bit. How are we doing on time? 7:30? Kick ass. Just gonna do some figure sketching for now. Let's try to get some energy. You're way too close to the fire, dude. I think you're gonna get scalded. Here. So the emergence of plots in adventures arose after what, like 20 years, 15 years of the game being around, and people basically. So you'd start off with a first level character crawling through a dungeon. The way that Beck Me worked is that you only gained experience points by throwing gold away. So when you go into a dungeon, you don't get experience points for anything other than gold. And so when you get gold, you either keep it to add, you know, to get new magic gear and repair your armor and hire people and whatever, or you throw the gold away. And if you throw the gold away, like literally get no value from the gold, it gets converted into experience points. And so the idea behind this was that the, like, quote unquote getting rid of gold was like you going, like Conan style, you going into town and having like a massive, like a week-long bender where you spend stupid amounts of money at pubs and having parties and making new friends and carousing and gambling and basically just wasting the money on a good time as a means of washing the PTSD off of you, of cleansing your soul of the traumas of fighting monsters underground in the pits of hell. And it would take a number of weeks equal to the level that you're trying to gain to be able to wash off the hate of crawling around inside of dungeons. And so during that time, you're like, if I need 20,000 experience points to gain a level, like from level 7 to 8, I'll have to spend 2 months spending 20,000 gold in this community, just burning it up. Like, let's have a parade. Let's make a gold statue of this kid that impressed me with his whittling skills, like just stupid shit. And you throw your gold away, and what that does as a low-level character, that begins, like, it creates this narrative, like this meta narrative inside the game campaign world where your character is a source of wealth. Your heroics just pumped 20,000 gold into this village. They're flooded with fucking cash. They love you. Thank you. As long as you don't bring anything that gets them killed, thank you for showing up. If there's something horrible following you, get the fuck out. But assuming everything's on the up and up, yeah, you're welcome here anytime. Bring your money. And so after, and the way that Beckme works was after, like, once you gain 9th level, you could have a keep, like a domain. They're calling it Bastion right now in D&D, but in 5th edition. But that's, boy oh boy, I could rant about how disappointing I am about that. But it's not. They aren't trying to reproduce Beckme, and you have to understand that. So the way that the Beckme would work is by the time, because D&D was a way of deconstructing a war game where, like Warhammer 40K, where you're pushing characters around you're pushing miniatures around a battlefield to fight a war. And D&D came from, what if we had a SWAT team or like a commando team in this army that could, like, try to take out the general of the enemy army. If we can kill the general, you'll lose that command bonus to your army. So you create these little tactical teams that would have, like, their own, like, little adventure inside of the battlefield, which is where a lot of this logic about how do you conduct warfare adventures in D&D is like, well, make it background and focus in on the commando stuff that your specific team is doing to influence the battle, like taking out the general. That's, like, super fucking classic. But it's just that the origins of the game is, like, there's actual rules for that battle that's playing out on that tabletop war. So D&D was framed around, these are commando characters that are doing specific Conan's type missions to help the army. Well, what if they were to, let's make a fantasy element of this, and, like, let's delve under the earth and, like, explore these dungeons, and let's extract treasure from these dungeons, and it just evolved into the game of D&D from there. But the goal was always, these characters are part of an army. So your character, as you gain power, you eventually acquire an army. Like, that was the frame of reference for the game, is your character is attempting to gain power, influence, and levels so that they can eventually have their own property and raise their own army and create their own kingdom, which is where the game would shift to. So you go through basic, which is level 1 to 3, and then you go through expert, which is level 4 to, I want to say, 13, and then from 14 to, I think it's 25, it would be companion series, which was all about siege and warfare. First level was about building personal strength to the point where you become notable. Once an expert, you become notable, you gain property and a domain around you. Once you've established that domain and started building your influence around you, you build and accumulate an army, and then rage your influence, your budding kingdom against other kingdoms. and then once you've got through that at level 25, at level 26 through 36 was Master Box Set, and that was your path to becoming an immortal. How to become a global power, how to unite the world underneath your empire, and how to accumulate enough personal power and influence in the world that you can actually become a god. And then there was the Immortal box set. So BECMI, Basic, Expert, Companion, Master, Immortal. Once you got into the Immortal box, you no longer had your character level 1 to 36. You threw that all away, and you became Immortal level 1, and you became a demigod. And as you continued accumulating worshippers in this newfound religion faith that your new deity has created, you accumulate more followers, and the more followers you have, the more god power you'd have, the more you could reshape reality around you and build your perfect world, your perfect realm, your perfect creature, god stuff, however you want to play that. And it would be gods basically fighting each other over whatever it is that gods fight over. But like that didn't come out till like I want to say like 1989, 1990. It took a long time for Immortal. I mean, when was the Immortal box set? Dungeons and Dragons, Immortal rules, publish date. 1986. I was a little off. Yeah, the Immortal box set came out in 86. There you go. So there was 36 base levels, and then there was 10 levels of immortality. So technically, the basic D&D game when it first came out was a 46 level progression from absolute nobody to supreme god of your pantheon. And that could take like 8 years to get through that entire process of playing every week. I never went through that full process. Hey, thank you. Hey, Zod. Zaid. Glad you enjoy it. Yeah, I like the how to say. I'm torn for when I start doing Kickstarters, whether I want to go with more basic just line art and pencil work, or if I want to stay in the full color space. Because if I start doing indie work, like DMsGuild, like you're really compelled to do color art because they provide color stock art from 3rd edition for you and 5th edition free for you to use. So like you can always have color art for free if you're putting stuff on DMsGuild. So like it kind of raises the bar. Like you should really have color if you can. And you know, I don't see color, so my own personal victory of painting in color, it's just every time I make a new color painting, it's like I'm beating the odds. So I get a big ego kick out of that. But I'm starting to think, like, if I'm going to do Kickstarter projects, it might be a really good idea for me to think about just working in black and white, because then I could just do a black-white book and publish it and not have the overhead expense of a full-color book. That's worth considering. And I love sketching. I love doing pencil sketches. It's so much fucking fun. So there's two wolves inside of me that are fighting. The one that likes to paint in color and is proud of my ability to even be able to do it. And then there's the black and white wolf, which is like, you're so much faster with just doing line art and skipping the color. Maybe you should consider not doing color if you don't have to. And I don't know which. I feed them both, so neither one of them dies. But we'll see where that ends up going. But if I put him here, well, I think he feels like he's a little bit too close to the fire. And if I back him down a little bit, it'll help smooth out the transition from fire to foreshortening to this tent in the background. Now I feel like I need to give this tent a twist. Like that. And bring it down a touch. Just so it can line up more properly with that fire. Yeah, that feels pretty good. This character's feeling pretty bad, honestly. That's some fugly shit. Fire, tents. Tent. crouch, fire, flame, s'mores. I'm gonna call this guy s'mores. Feed them both. But I mean, I don't have to worry about it right now. But this is the kind of stuff that's like, this is going to be full color, obviously. So that's the kind of stuff that's percolating inside of my head. I'm pretty happy with how this art turned out here. This is a pretty cool piece, and we're working on that giant pit. Let's see. Toolkit location. Edge of Lament, into the mist, within the Nexus. We're going to have a little map here of the different locations inside of the terrain. So this is going to be a mini map. This is a larger regional map of Karnath, like Ader and Tether and Telkir and Fort Bastion over here, and then the Carnwood, Iceflow River over here, and then Village Peace that we're looking at here, and then you go northwest into the Carnwood here. This is where the Manifest Zone is at, and then inside of that, the different dungeons. So I've had a piece like that, but we're defining the space there. So we're going to drop that in, and when we do, and we come back to this page here, this is going to zoom in specifically on the village here, and then marching into the Carnwood, and then the Manifest Zone, and then the dungeons inside the Manifest Zone, to be able to point out these different locations here on the map. And then we're looking at hazards, short rests, the weather, visibility conditions, the icons that go along with those things, so that we have easy icons on the map. And then here we're looking at plot hooks, which is the 12, the 5 different alternate plot hooks plus the default deputy. Again, we'll have basically a visual representation of the village, the forest, the Manifest Zone, the different dungeons in the Manifest Zone, and then the necromancy facility. Each of these plot hooks, the 12 and Ader Academy, actually start off in the facility because they know about it. The Church and the Church of the Silver Flame, the Gatekeepers, they don't know about the facility, but they know about the Manifest Zone, so you appear in the Manifest Zone. The Friends and Family and the Deputy default plot hook, they don't know about the research facility. They don't even know about the fucking Manifest Zone. All they know is that there's soldiers in the forest and they can't go near them. So these two start off in the village. So village, Manifest Zone, under dungeon. Those are basically three different phases, like very beginning of the adventure, very end of the adventure, and then in the thick of the adventure. Those are the 3 different starting points, depending on what plot hook that you want and how long you want the campaign. Like if you want to do a one-shot, you should probably run Ader Academy or working as a kill squad for the 12. The 12 is either there to assassinate and reestablish control, assassinate the necromancers and then take control of the facility. Ader Academy, you're there to avoid conflict, but to steal the artifact away and take pictures using a little magical camera of stuff that's going on there, so you can use that as evidence to prosecute the people that were doing this, but get the artifact away from them and bring it to Ader Academy. And the Church of the Silver Flame, the Gatekeepers, they just want to collapse the Manifest Zone because it's not supposed to be there. And then Friends and Family and the Deputy plot hook, there's something weird going on, figure out what's going on and help us. So we'll put in basically like a 3-piece visualization here of the village, of the Manifest Zone, of the research facility, and basically like this one goes here, and like have arrows pointing to these things, and like a schematic. And then here's the deputy plot hook. You get hired by I can never remember this dude's name. Day of mourning, blah blah blah. Refugee communities, the Passwood, the sheriffs, the region. They deputize volunteers to help oversee trouble. I think I just locked up my computer fucking around. There it is, Sheriff Sindrith in Gotrave. That sounds like a noble born if I had ever heard one. I'm gonna close that out and reopen the window because my Photoshop locked up on me. There we go. Hey, internet dies sometimes. Right on, Karen. I love, God, yeah, sketching is just so freeing. Hey, no kidding, Zaid. Neat. I've fallen behind the text, so I think I'm caught up now. Right on. But yeah, this is some of the stuff. This is a total of 103 pages. So we'll be building out the entire thing here. Not necessarily like every stroke for stroke here on screen, but this is what I do in the mornings just to keep you guys updated on where we're at and keep moving along. I'm still doing. We only got about 45 pages completed in the layouts, so that means I still have a slew of them to do. But as I do page art for the pages that I'm done with off screen, I'm filling in the I'm finishing the remaining layout pages, and once those are all done as well, then I'll be able to like start a piece online here with you guys to take a look at what I'm doing, and then I can get to a point. It's like I really just want to drill down on the details. So like I'll spend like 3 hours off screen working on that the evening, and then I'll come back with work done the next day. So, but I can't get to that level of production until I finish all the page layouts. And this thing is a monster, fucking monster to do layouts for. Like adventures are by far just the most complicated thing to build. It's because there's so many visual components and they all layer together, and everything has to be self-referential. So it's just like really it's a difficult task, and I think the reason why it took so long for me to start doing adventures at all is just because it is such a difficult task. I never really considered it. Here, I'm going in here. I'm just messing around. Still messing around with perspective a little bit. That feels pretty good. I still feel like I can probably push this back a bit. Like if I put this too close, it closes off the merging point in this 2-point perspective. Right here, when they're this close together, it puts the focal point right about here between the fire and this crouching guy. But if I pull this over here, it changes the point of focus to be about here. Not much of a change. But if I bring this tent all the way over here, that pulls the focal point to about here. So I'm messing around. I have to worry. I want to worry about how close am I getting to the icons. So this is an example of a piece I actually want to stay within the column borders. It's a 16:9 format. It's the 16:9 ratio. So it's 17 inches wide, 10 inches tall. And then if you zoom in, this is also a 16:9 ratio, 10 inches tall, 5.6 inches wide. And so it ends up working out nicely that like if you hold it sideways, you can see the full panel, and then if you hold your phone vertically, it can zoom in to just being a single column. So whether on a phone or I use a tablet. So, and it's a 12-point font, so it's super easy to read. So it's easy just to have a tablet behind your DM screen and just to be able to page through. And all these buttons here on the bottom are icons that take you to different points of the adventure, to different dungeons. So you can transition from one point to the other pretty easily. That feels pretty good. So I'm going to leave that be for now. Crouching guy. Next to lounging chick. she's going to be out of proportion until I reconfigure it. I kind of want to curl her body around. I kind of want to play with foreshortening here a little bit and push her towards the camera. I'm gonna restart that one. I see some fun potential here. Sure where my gesture is going here. I can feel the body in there, but I don't see how she's expressing herself yet. Definitely getting a chick vibe off of this one. And that makes me want to come back here and mess with this one a bit. Yeah, it's way too big. So I'm okay with pretty okay with where the tent are at this point. Tent, more tent. Let's build a trash folder while we can. Trash. Nope. Let's go to here and drop that out of scene. And here. We'll be messing around with this. Let's see, this is Friday. So we do artwork like this Monday through Friday in the morning. And then we have a D&D design stream. Lunchtime on Tuesdays and Fridays, including today, around 1 o'clock, probably 1:30 Seattle time, Pacific Coast. So it'll be like 4:30 East Coast. And then tomorrow we have our brunch stream. We'll be working today at lunch. We're going to work on Spelljammer, subclasses, and 2024 updates. And then tomorrow, I think we're going to try to finish the Theros backgrounds for the MTG campaigns. Update that stuff. Create because Theros doesn't have any backgrounds that are related to the gods. So I wanted to, instead of focusing on the background, start working, fleshing out the piety and renown systems because we're disconnecting them. We're disconnecting renown and piety from backgrounds because 2024 structuring, and just by making them as a completely independent mechanic, it frees us up to be able to potentially have, like, you could have a character that is both a Strixhaven student in the School of Rakdos that worships Heliod, for instance, in Theros. I mean, that'd be a crazy multiplanar character. But I mean, you could theoretically do it. And by having all the advantages that your character gains be based on piety and renown, instead of having any of it hinge on your character's background, you can control the bonus stuff that they get beyond what a normal background would allow by gatekeeping it behind that renown system. I feel like I'm kind of word salading at you a little bit. My apologies there. Yeah, if I change the angle so it's back facing a little bit more, I think that's going to free up a little bit more creative space for the rest of the group to interact a little bit more squarely. So this feels like it's a little cramped still, but it feels like the right direction. We're almost out of time today. I can feel it. Let's call her Lounge. I'll call him Crouch. S'mores. Campfire. Breaking everything down into their individual components so I can work on them separately. Something back here. So, you know, it's S'mores the Adventurer. I gotta be mindful of my lines here. Hey, how about that? Timely timer. But yeah, these characters are roughly lining up on perspective. So I'm okay with that. Crouch is pretty much on point. Whether I like it or not, it looks like Crouch is ending up being the center point of the piece. If we're using the rule of thirds, right? You take... and then we'll be done after this. But if you take your law of thirds, is basically like here's the space I have to operate inside of. Like this is my parameters, and so here to here and here to here. That's the box I'm working inside of. Here's a third and here's a third. That's actually a little off. Let's go to here and here. Here. So this is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And then here, that's 1/3, and here, that's 1/3. So the law of thirds is that when you're looking at a piece, your eye is naturally going to be most pulled to these center points here, 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 and here. Any composition that you create, these are your 4 hot spots. So if your interesting elements are lined up on these points, and you don't want all 4 points having things lined up. You want anywhere from 1 to 3, preferably 2. and having them opposing. Like here, the guard is becoming a central point because he's breaking the horizon line of the tents and the characters' perspective that are lined up on those tents. The guard is sitting above it, so it's naturally pulling the eye. So having the guard centered up more over here on this point, the closer I get them to this point, the more natural it feels that your eye would set there. Now look over here. Here's our bottom point. And what's going on? We have like a close interaction between this character that's lounging and this character that's crouching by the fire. The fire's center point is basically across this bottom edge. And here we have the edge here, this verticality of this guard lining up with the fire inside of the flame. And so we have a pretty good dichotomy. This is like only partially represented because this character's head is close to it, so you're naturally going to be interested in where this character's perspective is going to. And when we build the piece, it's going to be going to this lounging character. There's an interaction between these two, which is what this focal point here is helping leaning into. So from a compositional design, this is a pretty good piece. These tents aren't important. They're outside of the core third. The character that's keeping a lookout is breaking frame inside of this box and standing above it, so they're naturally taking on a role of having a broader perspective. So narratively, that aligns with mechanics of where the character is positioned, and everyone else is down low, equal to or below the line of horizon that's being created by the tents. So we'll have the forest in the background, and the forest, like the foliage line, will naturally work and break along with where these tents are at. And then we'll have like some ground scruffage up here. But overall, the composition is folding together really well, despite there being, seven primary elements of the fire, the 4 characters, the 2 tents, and then we'll have the forest background. And that it should be a decent little composition. Central lighting here down is pushing upward, so we can have interesting lighting effects here and here and here. We can de-emphasize the foreground character by having his back to you, so that helps insert you as an observer of the piece to feel like you're part of the team, because of the angles of the characters are basically circling around the fire and you're included with it. So, and the adventure is designed for 4 or 5 characters, level 7 to 8. So your character, you inserting yourself as part of the illustration, naturally works. So that's where this composition is coming from, and I'm pretty happy with it. So when we have it built out, it'll be a neat little corner piece here. It'll help add some balance to the page. I don't want to be too heavy-handed in the lighting with it, like light, dark, shadow, stuff like that. I want to be kind of a little muted with it so it doesn't overwhelm the composition. But the central column here of icons helps, and these lighter icons over here will should help balance against here. But if I need to, I can put this at the top of the page if it feels better being up there. I could technically break it up into part 1, part 2, part 3, with the characters here between part 1 and part 2, which is actually where they would be camping physically in the adventures between these two. So now I'm unironically thinking about just picking this stuff up and dropping it down to the bottom of the page here, and then taking the composition and bringing that up. Like, maybe that feels better. I don't know yet, but I have the option. I have the flexibility and the freedom to do that. So I get to do what I want. Anyway, what I want to do now is I got to be done. I got to get out of here. I got to get to work, and so I will be back in 5.5 hours to work on Spelljammer stuff. We built Spelljammer for 2014, but it's 2024 now, and there have been some changes to the rules, and I think we can make some smart changes for the Spelljammer supplement that we created to implement those rules. Plus, we're doing the 13 subclasses, and we're doing the mecha, war machines, and kaiju book. There's a lot of Spelljammer stuff that we're doing on the side, on top of the color mana stuff, on top of this. So once this gets completed, we bring forward the color magic stuff. That becomes primary, and then all the Spelljammer stuff becomes secondary. When the Spelljammer, when the Magic the Gathering stuff gets completed, the Spelljammer stuff rolls forward, and then on the back, we line up Guilds and Kingdoms. And so once the Spelljammer stuff gets done, Guilds and Kingdoms rolls forward, becomes our primary project. And then we work on the independent role-playing game for Asteroid Delving that I've been playtesting. So that's it for now, guys. Yeah, thanks a lot. And why is it called Law of Third when it's 4 points? It's called Law of Third because you're dividing the page into 3 sections. It's a grid of 9 by 9, so it's a 3 by 3 grid. It's just you're seeing the intersection points between where these thirds meet. Here's the third, 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 here's the third. The balance points between each third is why it's called the Law of Thirds. But that's a good question. I don't know why they named it that. I mean, that's the logic behind it. But you're right. It should be the four. It should be the rule of 4 focal points. But that's really clumsy. So I think the Law of Thirds just sticks out. Anyway, that's it for now, guys. I'm gonna bounce out of here, and I will see. Hopefully, I get to see everybody tomorrow. Tonight, this afternoon. Right. Bye.